My name is Sarah Patia, and today my topic is going to be on refugee youth mental health, specifically discussing access to services. Just to give you the definition of a refugee and what a refugee is, it's according to the United Nations Higher Commission on Refugees, or UNHCR as they call it. A refugee is owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his or her nationality, and is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country. Kind of looking at a global picture, there are 65 million people displaced worldwide, and that could be internally displaced or IDP, or people who are just in different countries. And in 2017, it was reported that 21.3 million are refugees, and this number continuing to go up with the rise of conflict in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And the three top host countries are Turkey with 2.8 million, Pakistan 1.6 million, Lebanon 1.1 million. And I didn't put it here because I didn't have enough space, but in Africa, there's Tanzania and Rwanda are also host countries for refugees. There's for refugees, there's three possible solutions for them. They either return home, or stay in the host country, or be resettled in a third country like the US. And less than 1% of the world refugees ever get resettled to a third countries. And more than 30 countries around the world currently accept refugees for resettlement. But United States is one of the biggest one. But that was in 2000 and before 2017. As we speak now, Europe, I want to be specific, Germany accepts more refugees than anybody. U.S. refugee resettlement. U.S. have been always accepting displaced people, but it was not a policy. People would just come. In 1948, Displaced Person Act was passed following World War II, and additional 400 European displaced by the war were admitted to the United States. In 1951, during the Geneva Convention, is when the refugee term was put into law, and it was approved by 145 countries. With the approved term of refugees, the United States is starting admitting refugees under the refugee resettlement umbrella, and the president gets to decide how many refugees are allowed in the country every month, and it's called the presidential determination, and it's done usually before October of every year, because the refugee calendar year starts October 1st. So and since the 1980s, more than 3 million refugees have been resettled to the United States, and 40% of them are children. So now discussing barriers to mental health services, I found this code on the ORR website, which is the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They are the one that funds the refugee program in the United States. And what it says is that physical and emotional well-being, as well as access to healthcare and foundation for successful resettlement. Without feeling healthy, it's difficult to work, go to school, or take care of your family. Basically, what it's saying is that if there's no access to adequate help, it's going to be hard for those neo-refugees arriving to this country to be able to adjust and overcome barriers to be able to go to school, start a new family, start a new life, navigate the new culture. So without adequate services, it's going to be hard for them to accomplish. And refugee youth represent a high-risk group who are in need of attention due to the high likelihood of experiencing trauma. And as we all know that children who have experienced trauma and ACEs will have negative outcome in adulthood if not addressed in early stages. A number of refugee children and families do not receive mental health services due to concerns over deportation, family separation, and stigma, and negative culture views of mental health services. And also, government programs do not provide adequate and sustained mental health promotion, screening, and treatment for children and their families upon arrival to the United States. And speaking to that, it's when a refugee first arrived to the United States, they receive the basic health screening. There's no mental health assessment. There's no like detailed screenings. It's just the basics, what Medicaid pays for. Because as we all know, when they first arrive to the country, it will be maybe, but after 90 days is when they'll find a job, have health insurance through employment, but their first health insurance is Medicaid. And Medicaid does not address the immediate concerns with a lot of it is trauma, adjusting to the new culture. This itself is a trauma, so refugees don't get that services. And if they don't get the services, as soon as they come to the country, we all know how is it going to affect in the future. Well, in 2001, the National Trauma Stress Network, NCTSN, was established, and this was not only established for refugee youth, it was established for all the youth in the United States. And it was established to improve access to care, promote evidence-based treatment. Like children were being referred to therapy for to address issues. And they also provide trauma-informed services for children, adolescents exposed to trauma, and then facilitate collaboration between service providers across the United States. And I just found this, I found out that Children Mercy actually uses resources from the NCTSN website. So if you go to the Children Mercy website, you will see that under pediatrician, the pediatrics, that they have a link to the NCTSN resources, and it kind of just explain what to look for in trauma in children and how to go about addressing childhood trauma. School setting is very important. The school is the first step where children usually interact with their peers. A school is where children usually begin to navigate their new culture. It's the first step they take to develop relationship. So it's very important for counselors, social workers, teachers to assist and provide an outlet for children and youth to address their ACEs and overcome barriers they might encounter during and after a settlement. It's very critical that they be trained to support the student in their academic, physical, and mental well-being. And the second one will be engaging a primary care physician in providing mental health services. And this is very important as well because primary care providers is where refugee families first encounter with the healthcare system, and it's important that the physician understand and are trained on the cultural differences and able to provide resources for these families to be able to navigate the healthcare system and how to address any mental health concerns, any trauma with adjustment, with even trauma that they have. And the third one will be acknowledging cultural influence in mental health services. And families might not be willing to address childhood mental health. They might not want to take their children to get mental health support due to the stigma and stigma surrounding mental health. So it's very important that schools again step in and start providing screenings, and just take this necessary step to provide services for these children. And this is when cultural awareness comes into play. Just because administrators, social workers, or teachers are cultural aware, it's not that they are going to be willing to step in and provide the services as needed at all time. And this is when empathy comes in. If there's no empathy, awareness is not going to be addressed.